Hi guys, welcome back to What's This Weapon? You might think, hang on, they've done this one already. Well, we haven't, but we did back in the era of quarantines and such things, cover its big brother, the Agram. This is the Croatian Agram. Just as a reminder, we're not going to recap this one just yet. Go back and check the old video. It's a little bit rough around the edges. It's literally just me with a webcam. But for all that, hopefully it has some useful information. Now, the Agram and its baby brother, the Agram 2002, conceived as military or police or security forces, or firearms for those forces. And things going a bit sideways, to say the least, with civil wars and unrest and everything. And a lack of a need, well, spoiler alert, the Uzi winning the submachine gun contract for the Croatian army as well. These things ended up having an afterlife rather than a service life, if you see what I mean. So these ended up in the hands of criminals. There was an assassination that involved the full-size version here that's mentioned in the video. So this is the 2000. Put this down for the moment. We'll want to compare it once we take this thing apart. So this is the Agram 2002. It is quite different. There is a family resemblance, but hopefully you can also see that even the exterior is pretty different, and the interior is different as well. Works in a slightly different way. Like the full-size version, it has the option of a suppressor, or you can unscrew it and fit a different muzzle device. So let's just do that. Just threads off. And it gives you an exposed barrel. So to cover up the barrel, now on the full-sized Agram, there's a sleeve that covers the ports in the barrel because it has integral suppression. Not the case here. This is just a sort of cosmetic feature, really. With essentially a sort of heat shield. So should your hand stray up from this shaped grip here on the lower receiver, this is polymer, which you've probably seen, then you're less likely to burn yourself on it, but it's not ideal. Gives it quite a different look, of course, if you have that on there. We'll leave it on there because it makes it a bit more wieldy for me to show you on camera. Different magazine catch design. So the 2000 has a paddle release. Press at the back, pull off the magazine. This has a pistol-style push button to remove its magazine. The magazines are based on the Uzi magazine, but have to be designed differently to accept this magazine catch arrangement. So on the lower receiver here, we have markings 1 and X. 1 for semi-automatic, X for automatic. If I demonstrate that. So closed bolt, these fire from the closed bolt. This lower receiver, pin at the front there, cross pin there, and this lip. So it's a tubular design, like the 2000, with a screw-on end cap. That's then encased by, or partially encased by the lower receiver. See this lip that goes inside the end cap there. Now this is a design weak point. This plastic is not, well, if it's glass reinforced, it's not very well glass reinforced by more modern kind of mass production standards. There are cracks on this one. I have to be a bit careful with it actually. So the cracks propagating from stress points here and here on both sides. And our other example, we have one that's identical to this, but with a big chunk of plastic missing off the back. So I have to be a little bit careful how hard I operate this. Cocking handle is machined steel, good for grasping with finger and thumb. And markings wise, all we have on here are Luger Cal 9mm, or is, I should say, Luger Cal 9mm. We don't have the name. Now, when this first came to the attention of the British authorities, it was believed this was called the Samson. I'm not sure where that comes from. It's the Agram 2002. So the design of this predates the Agram 2000, but was not finished as a design until later on, hence the later number, the later year. And it just has this pretty unusual sculpted look to it. I don't know if it's cyberpunk. Might look a bit cyberpunk. Sights are fairly basic. You can rotate the front post to give you a windage, left and right adjustment. The rear sight, I believe, is, well, it is fixed. I assume it's replaceable with different heights of sight for elevation adjustment by an armourer. I haven't grabbed a Beretta PM12 mainly because I don't want to reinforce the myth that these two guns are based on the Beretta PM12S. They're not really. I think inspired by, it's probably fair to say, certainly for the big Agram, the Agram 2000, but in detail they're very different. Firing mechanism, proportions, yeah. It's only really the Agram 2000 that is reminiscent of the Beretta PM12. So let's pop this one open. So the takedown pin has to be pushed out with a tool. It does have a ball detent in it, so it stops in the central position and doesn't overshoot, which is useful. Be better if it was captive, but you know, these were developed in less than ideal conditions. And then lower comes off upper. So we have our polymer receiver. There's that. It's quite a substantial rear lip there that latches into the end cap. It's just clearly under recoil forces, you do start to get some cracking going on in there. Trigger mechanism. We've got a split sear arrangement. That's on semi, and then on auto, it just comes down and stays down when you hold it. On semi, it has that disconnect feature, which is standard, of course, with semi-automatic firearms. They wouldn't work otherwise. And we have a tripping lever, so the other half of the sear is an auto sear or safety sear, essentially, activated by the bolt coming back. The idea being that it can't fire until the bolt is closed, because it's not safe if it doesn't do that. These are standard features to all select fire firearms, semi-automatic and automatic firearms. The way it's put together or realized in this design is a little bit unusual, with this sort of almost like a split sear and using one half as a tripping lever, or an auto sear or a safety sear, whatever you'd like to call it. So that portion is pretty light, being made largely of plastic. And then the upper part looks like this. We have a knurled end cap, or just serrated actually. Give you enough purchase to unscrew. Quite a long thread. For obvious reasons, there we go. So that all comes out the back. That's just your end cap. And we have this steel plate which houses two guide rods and springs. The big one is your return spring to push the bolt forward again, ready for firing. Typical firearm stuff. The bottom one is actually a striker spring with its own guide rod. So one is driving the bolt back forward against itself. And the bottom one, if I just offer up the striker there, runs on this one here. So this striker runs inside, or it lives inside the bolt. So it almost looks like a fixed firing pin bolt, like a Sten bolt or something. It's not. It actually has a separate striker there. And you can see the two holes. One is for the return spring or the recoil spring, and one is for the striker spring. Hole for the cocking handle, of course, and then the machined bolt face. So it is a closed bolt, striker fired machine pistol, or a compact submachine gun. No provision for a stock on this. So by some definition, it would be a machine pistol. It's certainly, I'd say it's compact enough to qualify as one. And then we have a very short barrel. You can see how short the barrel is there. The chamber is actually slightly further in. It's as far in as my fingertip there. Obviously it comes to here, so it's only a few inches long. No shorter than a compact pistol, say, but shorter than you might wish to have on a sort of two-handed firearm. Although, of course, all modern pistols are operated with two hands these days anyway. We can see as well, the bolt has these scallops down both sides, these channels, and they ride on these stamped, pressed-in features here on the receiver. So they're rails, they're bolt rails, essentially, which mean it should reciprocate more precisely than it would if they weren't there. With a tube-based submachine gun, you can rely on the round section bolt, round section tube, but it's better if you have some sort of rails on the inside. So the Agram 2002 has that feature. Just before I finish putting this back together, when this is just in its two halves, there's quite an easy way to see how it works. So we have our, as mentioned, we have our sear there, it's dropping down and being disconnected, popping back up. Put it on automatic, so it just stays down when I hold the trigger. On the left side there, see it moving? Inside the top half, there is your striker, and it's under spring pressure because the end cap keeps it on, so I can literally pull that back with my finger and let it go. That's how it's firing. And that's the noise you can hear well, when you dry fire it. It's bouncing slightly, I think. Almost imperceptibly, but I think there's a little bit of bounce there. Not enough to cause any significant issue. And that ledge there is what the sear is holding back. So the bolt stays where it is. The firing pin striker comes back here and is held back by that ledge. And when I pull the trigger, that's what happens. So just like the full-size Agram, this was designed by Mirko Vugrek and his son Ivan, and intended for Croatian army trials. I believe the compact version and the full-size version, or at least they were being developed leading up to that in the early 90s. Ultimately, the Uzi won, and a license, or a sort of non-licensed licensed copy of the Uzi was selected and manufactured for the Croatian army. So these two models kind of fell by the wayside initially. They then were illicitly produced in the early 2000s and found their way all over the place. They were cropping up in the UK in the hands of criminal gangs, gangs in Croatia itself. And so production was shut down. But there are still a few of these floating around. We're lucky to have two of this and one of the full-size Agram 2000. So quite an unusual take on the standard sort of tube or round section submachine gun. Some local flavour to it from Croatia. The name, by the way, Agram, that's the German name, the Habsburg Empire era name for Zagreb, capital of Croatia, where this thing was designed and manufactured. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. As always, you can play along over on Facebook or Instagram, guessing what it is that we're going to end up revealing on the video series, or you can just carry on watching just the videos. We don't really mind which you do. Also, check out our website, any events that we happen to have coming up. At the moment, the main thing is our exhibition Reloaded, which is a temporary exhibition featuring decorated firearms of, well, all eras really, but there's some pretty interesting stuff in there. Gold-plated Kalashnikov, there's a gold Sterling as well, for those of you who aren't so interested in the AK side of things. The Art Deco Baby Browning that we covered the other week on the channel, and a lot more besides, so please do come and check that out. It's on until the end of June. That's if you're in the UK, of course. In any case, we thank you again for watching the series, and we'll see you again next week.